Hi and welcome to Making Sense of It. This is podcast number 8.
It is number 8.
It's exciting, isn't it?
It is exciting.
We're getting them out on time.
Yeah,
We're not finding things difficult to talk about.
No.
We've not managed to get any guests yet. But the weather's terrible.
Yeah, blame the weather, blame the snow.
No way we could have got anyone today, so it's got nothing to do with the fact that we're not trying. It's just that the elements are against us. Storm Emma is upon us.
It's about time they named a storm after you.
What, you're saying that I'm like a whirling dervish?
A whirling dervish? No. More like a, what does he call it? That,
Tasmanian devil.
That's the one.
Thank you very much. I think this,
Oh, Captain Caveman.
Yeah, Captain
Captain Caveman.
They were so weird. You know what? Wasn't it strange that the fact that there was this Captain Caveman, but then he was surrounded by beautiful cartoon females?
Yeah.
Ugh, it's so annoying.
I used to get excited when all the Hanna-Barbera cartoons sort of amalgamated and became one cartoon. Sometimes it'd happen. You'd have them. I think, is it the Pink Panther would turn up? Is he Hanna-Barbera?
Yes.
Yeah. And then you'd have the wacky races.
I used to love the wacky races.
Like
Penelope
catch the
Pitstop.
pigeon.
Penelope Pitstop was awesome, wasn't she?
How does the dog do
I
it?
don't know how the dog
Like
does it.
asthma or something, didn't it?
When me and Pete first got together, the first night that we hung out at all, wasn't it? That was the first night we ever hung out when you did your Elvis impression.
Oh, my Elvis and
Scooby Doo.
Shaggy from Scooby Doo.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that was one of our mating rituals,
Yeah.
you could argue.
So,
it was your peacocking, showing me your super skills.
Well, showing my super skills of amalgamating two characters together.
Elvis and Shaggy from Scooby Doo.
And also, you also tried to, and I got this from a friend of mine actually called Sai.
Oh, I know, Laurel and Hardy.
Laurel and Hardy, Elvis, and Shaggy from Scooby Doo. So Shaggy from Scooby Doo is like, oh, I can't do it now. I've got to be able to do it. What are you going to do, Scoob? And then, Scoob, hey, so what are you going to do, Scoob? So what are you going to do, Scoob? And then you'd have Elvis there. And then you'd have Laurel. You see, if you're not watching this, you won't be able to see the effect, you see, because this is what it is. And you've got
Like they're in the room.
And then the Laurel and Hardy is there. So you've got to do all three of them together. First of all, you've got to do the, so what are you going to do, Scoob? Which is like the Elvis. But then you've got to do the Laurel and Hardy at the same time, so all three. So it's like, so what are you going to do, Scoob? Anyway, that's my... So what are you going to do, Scoob? I think my Shaggy thing's pretty good. So what are you going to do, Scoob?
Deeply disturbing.
I know, yeah. It's a good
we
way to start
started
the
the
podcast.
podcast.
Yeah. Totally not making sense of it, but I know.
You are kind of making sense of it. There was a full explanation with it.
It's like
so
a
people
Cockney
understand.
Australian, isn't it? You know, if you do the Cockney and the Australian accent, sometimes with me it blends into the same. So you're like, all right, mate, you're all right, and then you've got Australian, which is like, get in, g'day, mate. And then you can
Get in.
g'day, you know. And then it's like, all right, mate, guys, shout out shrimp in the barbie, mate. It's just up and I don't know.
Me
Anyway.
and Pete have on many occasions been in the car and had accent competitions, which inevitably I win all of them because,
does.
as you just noted,
I'm not
Pete
very good.
isn't very good at accents
See,
at
in
all.
my head, though.
You were quite good at the Shaggy.
So what are you going to do? It
Okay,
keeps
we
going.
don't need it again and again.
All I can say, though, is, so what you're going to do, Scoobs?
Yeah,
Say
well,
something
that's
else.
more than I can say in that way, so it's okay.
Yeah.
The weather is awful, though. On a serious note, the weather is awful.
Yeah. We are filming this in advance. So it is today, as we've said, the beasts from the east.
What must it be like in Russia all the time, though? Like, I mean, this is Russia. Imagine this is the kind of remnants of what was the Russian experience of snow. Literally, I bet you can't even get out of your door.
I think it even snows behind closed doors in Russia.
Honestly, it's horrendous.
It's that cold, but it snows.
Like, I
indoors.
like the way it looks, but I just don't like the way that the world stops when it snows. Yesterday, I was coming back from this morning, and it was such a relief to see that Virgin trains were running because genuinely, you know, as it is, Pete's like my bad luck omen when I go with him travelling because whenever we're in London together, inevitably something goes wrong and Virgin Trains either just stop running from Euston and literally mean that it takes us 7 hours to get home, or we have to wait on that concourse for what can only be described as minutes of hours of years in that time. It's awful.
It's like you just stare at the board, don't you?
My neck.
Yeah.
My neck is agony.
People who travel from Euston to wherever they're going will totally empathise with that. You just stand and you stare at the board and you will it to change, to move on, to tell you the platform. It's the platform that's the worst.
It's the platform, and the key is that you're not looking to just get what that platform is. You're looking so that you can start running. Because you know that people who are getting on that London to Manchester train, they are fast runners and they know the score. And I feel sorry for people who might not often go to Manchester and find themselves on the platform imagining that there may be some order to people going for that said train. But it's chaos.
It is chaos.
It's absolute chaos. It's every man, woman and child for themselves. Literally, you see mothers leaving their children on the platform going, get your own seat, mate. I'm getting this one. Literally every time. And you know what? Every time I get a seat. Bar the one time.
We had to go to King's Cross.
Oh, my God.
Yeah, no, but the thing is, me and you, when we're on a train and everything is just grey and horrible and everybody's like just been travelling for hours and days and everyone's like, you can always count on me and Em to liven things up. Guarantee we will stand up and we will do a 2-man show and get everybody happy again.
I sat on the floor though. I just was like, I'm just sitting on the floor. Because what happened was we got to Euston. Unfortunately, as happens sometimes, somebody who was very sad had ended their life on the tracks, which understandably becomes a crime scene, and rightly so. And so you can't be annoyed.
Yeah, this is why you've got to not be annoyed.
You can't be annoyed because you just know that somebody else has had a far worse day and somebody's going to get that knock on the door about their family. And, you know, at the end of the day, don't moan about it. It's just your day in being inconvenienced. It's as simple as that. But we were stood waiting for about an hour and we're like, look, and it's getting really crowded and everything's cancelled. Every single train is cancelled. And then there's this like older lady, probably about 70 next to us, isn't she?
Yeah.
And she kind of looks at us with those kind of pleading eyes and goes, what do you think we need to do? And we were like, I think we need to go over to King's Cross because essentially nothing is moving. So we essentially escorted this woman, didn't we? We took her with us. We got her all the way back to Manchester. We adopted her for the entire journey. But she was kind of one of those people who read into things like superstitions quite a lot. So I made this frivolous, flippant comment about the fact that Pete is a bad omen. If I go travelling with Pete, every time, inevitably, the trains will not run. And she kind of responded to the fact, did I mean that? And I was like, oh yeah, it's all the time. Every time he comes, it's terrible. We got back to Manchester, didn't we? Do you remember we walked her across from Victoria because she'd never been. We walked her across. We left. Yeah, we kind of managed to get on the slowest train in the world. Let's get on the train from Leeds to Manchester because we'd had to go all the way to Leeds, which stopped at stops that I think they invented just for that journey. It was.
Old farms.
It was unbelievable.
Ghost towns, mines.
No, seriously.
Just people just stood there.
Nobody got on. It was just everyone was on the train to Manchester. But she was sat there, like, because finally she sat down there because we got her a seat. And we'd been standing up. So it was a bit of a knackering trip. We get back to Manchester. We walk across town. Do you remember I went to her? Oh, are you coming back to Manchester at some point? She was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to come and see my son just before Christmas. I was like, right, yeah. She went, yeah, fortunately, he won't be with us, will he? And I went, what day? And she went, the 22nd of December. And I went, yeah, we're travelling back that day. And she just
Friday,
went,
oh,
no. And I thought, man, I don't really think it is that Pete ruins the trains.
Ironically, that day, it was perfect. We got back that day perfectly.
It was amazing.
Sorry, again, the dogs are awake on this podcast. The cat's not wanting to be awake because he looks knackered, but
keeping it real.
Yeah, the wrestling.
To people who are listening, this is the chaos of our kitchen where we do the podcast. It's very comfortable for us to do it here, but it means that we're surrounded by our domestic animals.
It is.
I say domestic just in case any of you imagine that I have a lion, a tiger, an elephant, or a giraffe hanging around.
Yeah, although this one's just getting comfy on me. He's decided that I'm warm.
I love cats.
Yeah.
I think that we have the most loving cats in the world.
I think this one, he's called Chase, this one, if you can see him.
Oh, for those of you who can't, he's a huge chocolate Abyssinian and he's absolutely gorgeous and really loving.
What's his nickname?
Brian.
Right,
Bri. Right, Bri. So this week, what's been happening, Pete? What's been happening in your world?
this week, what's been happening in my world? You know what? Working. Been doing a lot of work. Not really. You know when you get one of those weeks where you just, it's not mega exciting because like loads of things don't happen.
It's because we're not saying yes to things yet.
I know.
This is what we're going to do.
We've talked about this in the last podcast, and it's like we need to start enriching ourselves, and there's no point in us just saying it. We've got to start doing it. Although the weather hasn't been helping.
No, the weather's been terrible.
You know.
But the point is, this is what we're going to do. We're going to start saying yes. So we're going to try new things. And do you know what the beauty of that is? We can bore you with the details. Yes, all 15 listeners. We can
15
literally...
now.
I'm just hoping. It's blind optimism that we've got 15. You know, we've got a few, but 15 might be pushing it. Regulars. Yeah. But if they are, nonetheless... We are going to be saying yes to stuff. I don't know what it is. Pete's already told me that salsa dancing isn't allowed because he has painful memories of when he was married and when he and his ex were trying to make it work, as you do when you're married. They decided that they needed to do things together and she wanted him to go salsa dancing. And Pete now associates salsa dancing with negative feelings. So if I do want to go and suddenly don some really interesting outfits and heavily tan myself and wear even more makeup than I do now, it's out of the question. It's off the board. Not happening. We're not saying yes to salsa dancing.
Yeah, not saying that salsa dancing, isn't.
Well, Pete, I think people listening might think you have a prejudice towards salsa dancing.
Bloody salsa dancing gets right on my nerves.
Why didn't you want to do salsa dancing?
Because it was there.
Was that just it? Really?
Yeah. Oh, I think salsa dancing would be all right. It's you that makes the joke of salsa dancing, anyway.
You told me that you would never go salsa dancing with me. I didn't ever introduce that. You were like, listen, there's one thing that I will never do, and it's salsa dancing. That's what you said. Mind you, you said that about going to church, and then you came to church with me when I needed to get the kids in the church school. You did that. And
you've got to do it, haven't you?
You also said you were never, ever going to give up meat, and then you gave up meat.
Yeah.
Oh, that's an interesting story, isn't it?
It is an interesting story.
Epiphanies, moments of transition and change, moments where life turns on its axis and you go from thinking that you know yourself to realising that there is a whole new dimension. For some of us, it could be a pilgrimage somewhere, particularly if you come from the religion of Islam. It could be going out somewhere into the wild and having time alone to what can I think about the word?
Reconfigure. Yeah. Reconfigure your brain.
Yeah, all of that. Reevaluate.
Rewire yourself.
All of that. Or it could be a trip to an urban farm involving a duck.
Yes. I thought I'd never give up meat. And you know what now? I can't even believe I used to eat it. I can't believe that
You need to tell the story.
I need to tell the story. Yes, I do. I need to tell the story.
You need to tell the story about the duck because it's pretty impressive.
So I never thought I'd give up meat, as I said. I used to train a lot. I still train now, I still work out. I went through a period of real hardcore training.
You did.
And meat and fish were a huge part of that because I never really used to research. I used to eat vegetables all the time. I was massively into vegetables. And to be fair, meat was just an addition really to all the vegetables I used to eat. So, in hindsight. But yeah, we went to a Ducky Park Farm, it was called.
That's the one.
In the Lake District. Ducky Park Farm. There's good memories of that when we were the children. And they used to have these animals that walk around, there's some like locked up and stuff, which I'm not really a fan of, but there was some that would be kicking around, And there was this duck. What sort of duck was it?
It was a Grand Canard.
So
I know that because I used to keep ducks. Yes, that's a little extra addition to knowing about me. I had 2 ducks. They were my friends. They imprinted on me. They followed me everywhere, which is quite difficult when you're leading large groups of kids all across France. Don't imagine that what I'm saying is that they followed me all across France. That definitely didn't happen. But nonetheless, it was a very, very good 3 months of my life bringing up those ducks. And when I returned to that chateau months and months and months later, they had grown into proper adult ducks and they had their own lake and it was amazing.
Did they remember you? the run up to you, like those things?
No, because I'd kind of handed them over to somebody and they really remembered him. A guy called Chris took them on. Right. He was ace. He was a lovely guy. I could
just see, like, you know, one of those lying things on Facebook. Emma turns up at the chateau 15 years later and she walks up in slow motion and the ducks
fly in slow motion.
Down, yeah. They fly down and land in front of her.
That's right. And one in each arm.
Yeah.
No, that didn't happen. No, but they were beautiful. They were beautiful.
Have you ever seen that guy that flies with geese? He raises them and then takes his microlight up with a camera and records them flying with them. And they make
it's amazing.
Anyway, we're going off tangent now. So Ducky Park Farm. And this Grand Canard was walking about, and as daft as it sounds, it came up to us and making all these noises, you know, and the boys and Emma had seen this duck before because it'd been before I'd been, and started stroking it and stuff. So I was like, oh God.
No, I picked it up.
You picked it up, you picked it up. And then it passed it to me, and I was like stroking it, and it made something click in me, and it was like, I can't believe that.
It nestled under your arm, and it was just
making noises, going round, and I was stroking its chin, and it was just enjoying it, and it was like totally sentient and wanting to be there. And
yes, it was sentient. Sentient is such a good word.
Yeah, and so like we put it down, and it just clicked something in me, and then I was talking.
But you just literally turned around and went, "I can't eat meat again. I can't believe I've ever ate duck. I can't believe that I've ever."
It was because of the duck thing. It was because, like, you know, you have duck, like shredded duck, and you don't really, And it's like, I don't know why, you're eating like lamb and chicken and pork and beef, and it just never registered with me, you know. And it was from living with a vegetarian for a bit, you know, it was just seeing you guys and just the values that you had, and you've been vegetarian most of your life, so it was just, and I think all with that clicked with the duck. And then, because I did see as well, didn't we? We saw like a factory, like a death truck going off with some lambs and stuff, and screaming, with all of it together. And then the duck was the sort of the end thing really that made me think, you know, the final nail in the coffin of eating meat. And from that day onwards, I've never eaten meat ever again, or fish.
Oh, it's never appealed to you though, either.
No, as I say, it was just an extra for me.
Yeah.
You know, the worry wasn't there about the protein, because the myth, that whole huge myth, and there's lots of documentaries and stuff on it about people who eat meat say, well, you need your protein for bodybuilding.
No one has ever had a protein deficiency. In the world, though, who has ever heard of a protein deficiency? Unless you are living in unfortunate areas of famine, nobody goes to the doctors and goes, I've got a bit of a protein deficiency.
The biggest mammals in the world
elephant.
Vegan.
Exactly.
Herbivores.
Exactly.
Elephants.
Biggest dinosaurs
were, you know, the Diplodocus. You know, they were massive, and they never ate meat or fish. They were just vegetarians. And, you know, you get your we're just kicking the middleman out of the way.
Yeah, we have loads of problems being vegetarians, because when you're vegetarians and you make a conscious decision to bring your children up vegetarian, which is what I did. So I was vegan for a very long time. And then when I married my first husband, because I've had more than one, I realised that he ate meat at the time and I didn't want meat in my life. So we made a decision that he could have cheese and milk. And with my first husband, because I was vegan, I really didn't feel like I could be with somebody who wasn't vegetarian, at least. And so he did become vegetarian. Ironically, he eats meat now. So he wasn't pure. He didn't change his ideals, but never mind.
Which is terrible. Really.
I think it's really weird when people do that. But whatever, loads of people return, don't they, sweet meat? And this is not against meat eaters. Whatever people want to do, it's up to them. But anyway, I kind of looked back and made a conscious decision to say, well, I'm buying soya milk and I'm throwing out milk. Because the dairy industry is horrible.
I love soya milk.
I really need to get outside of eating any kind of animal products at all. And that will happen again. But for my kids at the moment, they do eat milk and drink milk and they do eat cheese. But when you're bringing up vegetarian children, particularly pure vegetarian children, when they've never, ever, ever had meat, you know, they've never touched it. They don't want to touch it. If they wanted to go out and eat Big Mac, I'd be disappointed, I won't lie, but they'd be completely entitled to do that and bringing up what I consider democratically, you know, observed parenting opportunities for them, which is that they know I can explore with them what they feel is important in their own life, even if I disagree with it. But for me, it would be hard and hurtful if they did go and eat meat. but they just don't want to, do they? They have absolutely no desire to. So I'm really proud of them. I'm really proud of them because they understand why I have those points of view, and they've kind of really bought into it. But inevitably, you will go to the health visitor or even when you're talking about it from the position earlier on, when you're talking to like midwives and people who are helping you through your pregnancies.
Listen, I've taken the boys to a consultant before, and I've got the same.
Yeah, they will say to you, oh, the reason that you are not being healthy with your children is because they are vegetarian. And
Terrible.
Every single time, you just want to slap them across the face. I do note that in our podcasts, I use violent language very often to describe scenarios. I have never actually slapped anybody across the face, I hasten to add, but what I'm saying is the compulsion to do so exists.
I mean, as a man, I'd probably say more of a smash his face into the table type of...
That's right, just get the head and smash it in. There you do.
Movie, Done!
Yeah, so I never move past the desire into action, nor will I. I'm a very pacifistic individual, but nonetheless, it provokes that desire to set them on fire in my head, that kind of thing. And they constantly throw you those myths about why eating meat is healthy. Now, it's cool. Eat your lamb, eat your chicken, do what you like. Personally, I ask myself one question in life. Have I a right to kill?
Yeah.
And if I can answer yes and be cool with that, knock yourself out. To be honest, I don't think you're very brave if you're going into Sainsbury's and buying it in packets and not actually acknowledging that you're eating raw flesh of what was once a thriving animal. But again, it's completely up to you. Obviously, they're my perceptions.
Well,
and that's
my opinion is if you're going to eat meat, at least go out and catch it.
Well, I mean, people aren't going to do that.
No.
And actually, people don't have time. Can you imagine? We're not. I just want to say as well, we've kind of, no disrespect, but to some degree, could you imagine living in a situation where right now my mum and dad have to bob out, not that they will.
I'm just going to be a bit late, son.
Yeah.
Why is that, Dad?
Struggling to get the rabbits.
On the way home, I've just got to go out on my horseback with my spear. And I've got to
That's the problem. The problem is we've evolved past that.
Yeah.
We've watched this when we see TV shows.
We've evolved
where
past
people
it. It's
try.
called battery chickens, and
But then again, you can't on a political level say that people can't have battery chickens, because that would mean that you're separating rich from poor. It's all very well if you can eat organic beef and organic eggs. Of course it is. That's really nice, but that is so up
I just
your
think
bum.
that the industry is a bit messed up, though, isn't it?
It is messed up. It is
One
messed
sec.
up. But that's my question. Like, how can I kill is my question, and my answer is no. That's it.
I know.
I can't kill. I don't want to be part of that process. The government put a bill through that said that animals are not sentient. They passed a bill that said recently, that animals have no feelings.
I know. I couldn't believe it.
If it isn't bad enough that the Tories are stealing the rich, the poor scenario to give to the rich, and not the opposite way around, they are also trying to convince people that animals have got no feelings whatsoever. Although that's a political debate, we don't need to bring that into here.
No, we're not going to be, but we know
We're at a table, they say that politics are bad around a table.
Yes, especially about the Tories.
Yes, but anyway, the point is that we are vegetarian, and now, through that amazing epiphany, not necessarily in the most romantic of experiences and places, it changed your life, didn't it?
It did change my life. I have literally, I'm 110 years old, you see. No, I've never felt healthier. My gut, my skin, just my health in general.
Yeah.
I rarely get colds.
Yeah, it's mad.
It's
what you put in your body, what you put in your body.
Yeah, I mean, I just find that for anybody that has any issue, I never had issues in my stomach. I've never had IBS, anything like that. But I can tell the difference of when I used to eat meat and when I
can tell the difference.
Meat. Yeah,
your flatulence is way worse.
Yeah, I mean, that's
way better than it used to be.
Yeah, it is. Literally, people think that vegetables make your wind. Get wind and it stinks and stuff, but it's not. It's the meat. It's the meat 'cause it festers in your stomach. It sits there and it takes a lot longer to break down, and...
When people have colonic irrigation, that's one of the things
whole lambs come out.
Literally give birth to calves.
Potato skins, whole cow. Lamb.
I'm quite into the idea of having colonic one day.
Yeah.
But then I just can't get past that moment of having to go in and have somebody put something on my bum. And I'll tell you why, because on a few occasions, as lots of women, men my age will have experienced, things don't feel right down there. And at a certain age, you think, well, go and get investigated. And I've swallowed a camera, done that without anaesthetic. Thanks, Mum. My mum's, if you've listened to this before, anybody who's listened to this before, right? My mum is the least sympathetic person when you're ill, unbelievably unsympathetic. And now she's proved us all right that she has the attitude of, like Pete says, a Trojan, because she had heart surgery and was just like out a few days later and was back to normal, basically just carrying on as normal, massive open heart surgery. But hey, it's Kay. Just let's get on with it. So anyway, bringing it back to what I was talking about. When actually I've forgotten what I was talking about.
What? The colonic?
No, it wasn't. It's all right, I've remembered again.
What was it?
That wasn't active listening. Pete, that was not active listening.
It was active listening.
Colonic was pre. That was pre the K. Pre the K.
So
I'd got onto K, and why had I got onto K? Because K said to me, when I got the endoscopy appointment, don't worry about the anaesthetic.
That was a quick forget. That was like
yeah, but
worryingly forgetful.
I still forgot. Anyway, so Kay says to me, my mum says to me, oh, Emma, don't worry about it, I've had it done. Now, at that point, I should have thought, probably not the best person to advise you on whether you should have an anaesthetic or not. Because my mum literally would stay awake if she could during an operation, so she could potentially direct the people doing it, or at least have a general chat. That's my mum. Yeah. So I went that day, and when I reflect on the nurse's face, it's funny. I got there was a big group of people, as is the NHS, all waiting for the day cases. And I get called into this little side office, and the nurse goes, after she's taken my questions and done whatever she did, she went, who's with you to drive you home? And I said, I'm driving myself home. She went, oh, no, you can't. She said, it's a minimum of 5 hours. You've got going to be really kind of sedated. And I went, oh, no, I'm not having sedation. She went, right, you're not having sedation? And I went, no. She went, well, you can come in now then. And it was clearly like, number one, I've just downtimed the amount of people because I'm going straight in. I get in, the doctor's like smiling, he's thrilled that I'm not having sedation. And then they get out what can only be described as what looked like a gas mask tube, which I had to swallow. And they basically spray this spray in the back of your throat, which does numb your throat. Yeah. And then you swallow it. And it kind of goes down, and then they get the camera and stuff. And I'll be honest with you, I'm dead glad I didn't have...
Did you puke?
No, it was fine. Oh. I didn't have the sedation. I'm glad I didn't have the sedation. And it was great because they were very nice to me and they could chat to me, and my mum was right. But the point was that it wasn't just like she suggested, oh, it's a breeze. It wasn't a breeze. A breeze is maybe having to swallow a small pill. That's a breeze. A breeze, even more so, might be drinking some liquid that doesn't taste very nice, but it's over in a moment. A breeze is not basically getting a pipe that you would literally fit to your sink and swallowing it. That's not a breeze.
So you'd be like
well, no, they just make you swallow it. It's anybody who's had one will understand what I mean. But anyway, I've completely gone off the point. But the point was that don't listen to Kay. If you know anybody who vaguely reminds you of my mum,
don't listen to them.
Don't listen to them. Simple as. Anyway, colonic, that was the thing.
Yes.
I have been to doctors and I have had those things done below, and it's really awkward because...
Just to add, everything was fine, so...
Everything was fine. But when I've gone in for the other end, I've never had a colonoscopy, nor do I wish one. No. I'm one of those who really struggle with that. But I have had back passage rectal examinations. Honestly, right? Back passage rectal examinations. And it's awful because you go in and you're like, hi, doctor, your GP, and you'll be like, things aren't like okay down below. I don't know what's going on. What can I...
A lot of pregnant women and stuff. And,
yeah, when you've had pregnancies, that's how it goes. And you kind of have this really grown-up chat with the doctor, and then they'll be like, oh, just get a nurse. And usually it's been a man as well, so it's a bloke. So you're just trying to be like really okay. And then they bring a nurse in because the nurse has to be present because obviously they've got to protect themselves these days. And then they examine you, and it's the fact that you have to normalise it. Because what you really want to go is, oh my God, I'm deeply embarrassed by this situation. Yeah. I'm feeling really uncomfortable. You're going to put your fingers in my bum. And I feel really, really disconcerted by this. Are you feeling as weird about this as I? Yeah. And he could go, yeah, I'm feeling pretty weird about the fact that I'm internally...
What, like, probably does it, several times a day.
There's no way. There's no way you ever get used to it.
No, you won't.
No way. No way as a GP that you ever get used to that.
No.
And then you have to see them again, and you're looking at them and you're thinking, you've seen things that a lot of people would never see in my world that are much closer to me. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. That's why you've got to trust your doctor.
Is that the moral of the story? That's Pete.
The moral of the story is...
Trust your doctor.
Trust your doctor. Because he might accidentally leave a pen there, or his notepad, and that'd be, you'd be going to the toilet and you'd be like, who's these notes?
I've got literally no idea what you're talking about now.
Well, while he's down there, he might forget things and drop something on.
You're suggesting that my general practitioner may, whilst examining me, just somehow insert a whole notepad. One worryingly that I wouldn't notice, which for any of the listeners, I just want a disclaimer here. I would totally notice if somebody had put a notepad in my bum or a pen, and that's going to have happened. The fact that you can even conceptualise that in your mind is deeply disturbing.
It was just because they said the moral of the story is to trust your doctor.
But then
I could have said, because you might walk out, you've stolen your wallet.
That would be a lot better.
Or he gets you to sign something and you realise that you've signed your house over.
Here,
Mr. Smith, before you leave, after I've done your bum examination, could you just sign this piece of paper, please? And you think, I trust him, so I will. Sign it. Next thing you know, 2 weeks later, roofmen are turning up. This isn't your house anymore, Mr. Smith. Why is that?
Dr.
You should have trusted your doctor. Anyway.
Oh, God, that's hilarious.
Yeah.
Do you know what, though? Sometimes when I was younger, I used to kind of, obviously, had too much time to waste thinking about these things. And I think I've had this conversation with you occasionally before, but just that kind of mischief in me where what I want to do is to just go to a doctor's and then sit down and ask them how they are.
Yeah. May I add that Emma is actually very, very mischievous. Very, very mischievous. Mischievous to the point of when we first got together, I'd be in the shower, having a nice hot shower. Hot shower. You know what it is, you're enjoying it, you're just like, steam everywhere and that. Door would fly open, full, as I was just about to get out, full, massive sort of boiling hot pan, but like one of those big pans with two handles.
Not boiling.
Ice cold water.
Yes, just hastening to add, I'm not a domestic abuser. It wasn't boiling hot, scalding water. Oh, how we laughed.
She'd run in with a knife and stab me 3 times in the abdomen. No, and she'd just throw the stuff like throwing huge pans of cold water over you but they're not even in the shower. You'd just be walking around the house and she'd just turn up with this big thing of cold water over you.
I love it.
An egg on your head.
But that's how you get the best result, because you can't be expecting it. If you're expecting it, or if you're in a place where you might expect it, then you're going to expect it.
Yeah, true.
If you're in the house fully clothed and then somebody just runs up and throws a whole thing of water over you, you're definitely not expecting that because it's in a house.
Well, that's the mischief. Sorry.
Also,
go on.
This is the one. This is the one I'm going to share with you.
Is this the time travel
one? This is, for me, the funniest thing that I ever did to my not then husband, but is now husband. So I was bored at work one day and I thought, what can I do to make my day funnier? So I decided to get into my husband's email, because I knew his passcode, and write to him. So I did. I wrote to him from the future. I wrote, "Dear Pete, this is you from the future." And I then wrote a list of things that he needed to think about and suggested that on a particular date he didn't go somewhere because something bad might happen. And I signed it off, Pete. About an hour later, I get a phone call and it's Pete, and he literally starts to tell me that he's received an email of himself from the future. He fully believed that actually could have happened. That is astounding.
Well, you know what? There's trying
No, don't try to get past it. No, don't get that. That is, the fact is, you literally called me and believed that there was more of a possibility that you had written to yourself from the future than it were me getting in and hacking your thing and doing a joke.
I think it's quite nice to have a good sense of
gullibility.
Sense of gullibility.
Massive
gullibility.
Imagination,
a good imagination, you know.
You're great because it's so good because there's so many things that I've done. I once told Pete that...
Oh, gosh, don't me to tell this. See, what the problem is with her, I can't understand. Well, I can understand that, but I can't tell when she's telling me the truth or not, right? So we're sat there in our old house in the front room, and she starts. And we were talking about inventions, and there's a part in the film Cocktail, I think it is, when they're talking about who invented like the flugel binder and the different things you could invent and how good they are and how much money they make you. She proceeded to tell me that her dad, when he worked for Heinz, because his dad used to work for Heinz, he knew this man called Ian or something, or Henry or someone like that. And Henry was an inventor. Henry worked for a subsidiary. Is that what you say it? Subsidiary? Of Heinz. And these other companies that worked alongside Heinz, that were owned by Heinz, used to invent things. So this guy worked for this company, and Don was mates with him, so he was an inventor.
Yeah.
And he worked for this company, and he invented certain things.
You did?
And you told me, first of all, he invented the pasta scoop, right? So I was sat there, and I was like, my God, Emma's dad knows like the guy who invented. But because it was owned, he worked for Heinz. The patent was actually to Heinz. And what else did you tell me that?
The hole puncher.
The hole puncher. This guy invented the hole puncher, right? And then there was the stapler, right? He invented the stapler and the thing that it pulls staples out with.
What if you're going to do one, may as well do the other.
It was owned by Heinz because, because he worked for them. So now, and then she just turned on and said, and he only had one hand. And I'm like, and I was like, this is the best story I've heard. And I was dying to speak to her dad. I said, Don, you know that this inventor that's invented some of the most. I mean, the pasta scoop was the one that got me. No. And like it was owned by Heinz, and I was like, I can't believe Heinz. That's why they, not only do they do baked beans and everything.
Not only have they got 57 varieties.
The guy's like, he's got one hand, so he sat there with his hand, inventing this stuff, and the poor sod didn't
how far I can go, and I can always go.
And then I've got to look at her face to make sure she's not like got this look on her face which is lie, and she's so good at it. I mean, the things. I mean, she does it at least once a week. There's a made-up story which
I don't think I threw away.
I'm almost starting to think whether I'm real or not at the moment, or I'm actually in some sort of.
I'm not even called Emma.
What's that film with Tom Cruise in? Magnolia, not Magnolia.
Oh, the one where it's every day he does it again.
Yeah. No, the one where he.
Oh, Vanilla Sky.
Vanilla Sky, yeah. I don't know whether I'm one of those things where I've been in and got
film.
and I'm living in this weird alternate reality,
Oh, it's so funny.
Just made up.
Pete loves my dad. Pete and my dad get on really, really well.
It's brilliant.
Because Pete and my dad are quite similar. So, bit of a diversion from what we've been talking about. Sorry, it's a very general one today, isn't it? We're just having a natter today. I think the snow has thrown us off.
I think it's quite nice though. It's making sense of a few things.
Well, also, today is the anniversary of my best friend who died. So my best friend died a year ago today, and I was with her right until the end, and I nursed her at the end. And it was a day where I just wanted to do something a bit light because I don't want to think about my loss. I want to think about my life. So apologies if it seems a little bit less explorative than normal, but that would be our reasoning behind it.
It's nice to mix things up.
So my father and Pete get on really, really well. And one of the reasons for that is, as I said, they reflect each other's behaviour quite a lot. So when my dad gets stressed, you are peeling him off the roof.
Yes.
And when Pete gets stressed, he's further up the roof than my father. So together, they are an absolute reflection of one another. And they both move very similarly. They're both really energetic. They both get really angry really fast. Like really angry really fast.
You have to tell a story about the football.
What was that?
first football
my
match.
God. Oh my God. Yeah, that's actually something that demonstrates how far you've come, really, because you're not really like that anymore. You kind of contain yourself a little bit more. You are a bit like that, but I can trust you to go places
I'd
now.
like to think that I've grown up.
Yeah. So when we first met, we got together quite fast, and we, unusually met the kids quite early on. I'd never introduced anybody to my kids before, but Pete and me just clicked, and you were moved in within a few months, didn't you? With the children's permission.
Absolutely.
And we were married. We were married within, a year. So we did it very, very fast, didn't we?
We did.
Because my best friend, who I was just talking about, her husband had died. So a bit of a tragedy, really. Her husband had died. And when me and Pete were getting together, and I realised, carpe diem.
Yes.
Live for now. Don't worry about next week. Don't worry about tomorrow. So Pete, very early on with the boys, was quite a big influence. You've been a massive influence in my children's lives. You are the dad, as simple as that. Yeah. And so he does all the daddy things. So you started going to football, didn't you? That was the thing. You got him a football club, started. And my eldest son's a pretty damn good footballer. Yeah. He's a great defender. Anyway.
I like football. But I like to play
match. Yes, Pete was a semi-pro footballer, weren't you? That was the correct title.
Yes.
So he was a very good footballer. So obviously he wanted my children to be good footballers. And Tide went to a football match, and I literally took my mum and dad as well. I don't know why. It was probably the first one they were doing, so we all went to watch. I never went really again. It's really cold, and I just don't enjoy it. And I don't understand the rules either. I'm one of those typical, stereotypical women in that way. So we are in a position where the match is going, and I, obviously, am thinking about priorities. Priorities are coffee. Priorities are food. Whatever the priority is, I left, didn't I? And then I come back in what seems like moments, and it's all kicked off. And it's kicked off pretty big style, because some kid has hurt another kid, and the kid who had been hurt obviously was upset, and the parents have kind of started to get involved. And this guy was swearing his head off.
He was.
At the kids.
Bear in mind, it was a friendly, and it was the first match he'd ever played, and he...
Yeah, inverted commas friendly.
I mean, the lad was... The fella was... It wasn't just...
He was swearing.
He was it's the F word, C word, to these kids.
Yeah. So my mum and dad are working class, but they're those classic working class people who've become middle class with their ideas. So they're quite well-to-do in the way that they act around people. But my father cannot handle any kind of situation like that. He gets really angry. Pete, of course, is somebody who retaliates when anybody kind of does anything to him, because it's just his nature. So there's this kind of scrum going on. Pete says, "Can you please not swear at kids?" Kind of makes that comment. The guy grabs you by the throat, doesn't he?
Yeah.
Well, then, obviously, Pete makes it clear that that was a bad idea, shall we say. And my dad steps in. And recently, he'd watched Taken by Liam Neeson, being the main actor, and he came out with the line to the guy, "You want to watch it? This lad's got a certain set of skills." And apparently, my mother was being verbally abusive to people because of the particular man's size and his aggressive nature. So the whole of my family had literally got involved in a brawl.
Yes,
First match.
Your dad was in the middle of it. I got attacked by another fella who came from the side. Safe to say,
They got banned.
They did get banned. They did. He got a slap as well. So that was...
We're not condoning violence.
No.
We are condoning defence.
But yes, it was very,
yourself.
very awful.
People
I'll tell you
get
what,
so crazy.
The children's football is a whole...
It's horrible.
Microclimate in itself. It's a whole different world. There could actually be a documentary done on it.
I think there has been.
Has there?
Yeah.
Because it is, with hidden cameras and stuff, because it is just the parents, some of the parents, I went to one in Cheetham Hill.
Instantly.
The ground it was on the cricket ground down there when it wasn't playing cricket, and it was unbelievable. What a fantastic ground. There was loads of pitches. And I'll tell you what, there was a guy there, and he was a proper rum one, he must have been slightly gangstery, really big lad. And he just lost it and started threatening everybody. He got proper, just offering everyone air out, and he got taken off, and he got banned as well. But that was the worst I've ever seen it. as if he was going to come up with a bat and start doing everyone in, you know.
It's so weird. People get so tense, don't they? But anyway, so Pete and my dad are very similar to each other. And it's strange because I've always said, I am somebody who kind of really thinks about relationships, and my mum and dad are my world. They're just awesome people. But my dad, I think I've always kind of been his little girl, and he still relates to me in that way. You know, he still will get into situations where he reminds me that kind of he really loves me and I'm like special and I've done really well in his eyes, and literally he'd give me a congratulations if I crossed the road. It's as simple as that. But he's somebody who also tells stories. You know, he's a great storyteller, isn't he?
He's brilliant.
But he will sometimes tell the same story maybe 35 to 75 times. And my mum is massively impatient with that. She just can't handle it because she's heard them so many times. You probably multiply them by about 20 times further. So when Pete met him, obviously prime candidate for all the new stories that to him were new and to us were existing. Now don't get me wrong, I listen to every one of those stories with joy, because the way I look at it is one day my dad won't be around to tell me those stories anymore. So every single time he tells me the same story, I feel blessed that he's here to tell me, you know, and I really do buy into that whole belief. But Pete, you can tell Pete that story 20 times and Pete's like listening for the first time, because you and my dad are so similar. And a classic example is we didn't watch Game of Thrones, did we?
No.
We'd never watched Game of Thrones. And Natalie Emmanuel, who I've worked with, she's in it. So I guess that I got her to tweet, didn't I? My dad got a tweet from her and she was so
The thing is, though, the next series we are going to watch.
We are going to watch.
Because we've seen
my
it.
My dad got us into it, didn't he? We got told to kind of do it. So, but when we weren't watching it, it really didn't matter.
Yeah,
because we had Don, and Don would turn up and he'd reenact the entire episode with actions and voices and in detail, to the point where it took longer to listen to my father recounting the episode than the entire episode itself. So in the end, we just thought, let's just watch the episode so we actually can say we've watched it.
Yeah.
And ironically, when we did do that, he still did exactly the same.
Yeah.
But you are very similar to him. I wonder whether, when I look at my first marriage, although it was perfectly all right, you know, it was not an acrimonious marriage, it was fine, but we were just mates and we were too young and all of that. And I didn't marry anybody like my dad. And I'm not saying that anybody goes out of their way to marry their father, but there are certain expectations I have of men. So my expectations of men, I mean, to be honest, my expectations of people, they are around things like DIY and always adoring the woman, making sure that he treats her in a certain way. They're all very, very sad and stereotypical. And for a feminist, I'm really apologetic about having those particular expectations, but they exist. They're fundamentally hardwired because of my experience with my dad. And you are very much like that. And your energy is very much like my father.
Yeah.
And you do get really stressed like my dad, but it's familiar. So it kind of isn't something that massively affects me anymore, although you've reduced that quite significantly.
Yeah, well, I'll kill myself with a heart attack if I don't.
Like your dad could have.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, your dad's brilliant because of like the sort of the Netflix and the Now TV stuff. It's on demand and it's there. I've got to hand it to them. You know, the Now TV, especially Netflix.
Yeah.
They're bringing out some absolutely brilliant stuff to watch. I mean,
I'm on Netflix.
I've got. Yeah, you are.
I am. Britain's Darkest Taboos.
You are on
First
Netflix.
3 series.
Yes, so I'll get it watched. There's one on Netflix that I got your dad into lately. Frontier. And it's got, is it Thingy Mamor in it?
The massive Hawaiian guy.
Is he white?
Married to the gorgeous.
I know his second name's Mamor.
Jason.
Jason Mamor, yeah. And he plays in this Frontier. And I knew your dad would like it. See, I watched it every time I was having dinner. So I sit down and watch like sort of 15 minutes at a time, and before you know it, once you watch most of them, you know, and then we looked. Don, Emma's dad, has one of my devices to watch on my Netflix because you have like 5 devices. So the same with my Now TV, he's allowed to. I'll give him one so he watch it. And literally, he set up his own little Don area, and I've gone on there, and he's talking to me the other day. He'd literally been watching it a week, this Frontier, and he started going on about like the like last 2 in the second series, and I'm like, Don, have you watched the first series, Don? You haven't just gone on to the second series? And he went, no, yeah, I've watched them all. He said, and Emma's mum turned on and was like, he sits there with his iPad just watching it, and he said he can't believe some of the stuff.
Do you know what? My mum is such a bugger. My mum is such a bugger. They've got 2 TVs, right? One's got that on and one hasn't. All my mum does is watch bloody reruns of Judge Judy. Literal reruns and reruns. And it goes on about how many facelifts she's apparently had. Apparently she's gone too far. I don't know. I think she looks all right, to be honest.
Yeah.
Every time I walk in that house, Judge Judy is on. My dad, who would like to sit and watch it on a normal TV, is ostracised and rejected to the other room where he has to watch it on a tiny little iPad.
Yeah.
God, that's why I'm who I am.
Maybe we need to get your dad one of those massive iPads.
Oh, yeah. That'd
the
be
big
so
ones,
cute.
so it's, yeah.
Oh, that'd be really good, actually. We should definitely do that. It's probably not something we should discuss on the actual podcast, but
he's not listening to it. Although they do listen and watch it all the time, but he won't.
No, I just meant that probably people don't need to think about our selection of what we're going to get my dad.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah. I started going like just sitting here chatting about, what we're going to get your mum for Christmas. Oh,
A Groupon break.
A Groupon break, yeah.
Yeah, a weekend away somewhere.
Yeah.
Rowley Manor, that tends to be the one.
Yeah. You'd be a good actress in any of those Netflix stuff. You'd be good in stuff like that, I think.
The only acting I'd really have liked to have done would be theatre. I like immediacy. I really wouldn't like films because I think that, it's also stop-start and it's not actually character. You're not in it like that, are you? I think that anything where you can empathise with a character really effectively and you can kind of live in that character for a good few hours because you're actually portraying it.
Yeah, I mean, you're a really good actress. You'd be you definitely, if you went into acting, even now, but when you were younger, I think you'd have been in films and stuff. I think.
Well,
I think you know that you could take on a role and become that role. And
it's not that though. Women all the time in the media, when it comes down to acting roles, have to take the clothes off, and that would never have been something I'd have done.
Yeah,
there is absolutely no way. I just would never have done it.
Times are changing now, you see. So.
But they wouldn't
now
have changed.
Now it's time for you to get into acting.
Oh, sweetheart, now I'm far too old to make them get my clothes off. You know what I mean? they wouldn't. I'd have to pay them. Seriously, not a chance. Do you know what I mean? Like, no, it's definitely gone west, and we're all okay with that.
I don't agree.
No, I know you don't agree, but then you've been, heavily drugged for the last 6 years without knowing, so that's the way it's worked out. But, that thing about acting is, I think that it sounds like a really romantic experience and stuff. Oh, I'd never have coped. Could you imagine how I'd have been with my attitudes towards a lot of famous people? Could you imagine? I'd have been the least popular person in the world. It would have been terrible.
Yeah.
Or worse, I might have become like that.
You'd have been great because you wouldn't have wanted a trailer. All you'd wanted was your vegetarian grub, that's it.
I'd have liked to have sang.
Yes, for people that don't know, and she will deny it, Emma is an absolutely brilliant singer.
I'm not a brilliant singer.
She has the most wonderful and most beautiful,
I have a particular type
original voice.
I have a particular type of voice.
It's a brilliant voice.
I would have liked to have sung. I would have really liked to have sung. Yeah, but me and my brother used to do our kind of music. So my brother's a really great guitarist. Like, he would never admit that, but he's amazing. He's really good at, like, putting melodies together. Like, he's not, like, some kind of 12-string, fanatical guitarist, but he's brilliant. He's really good with melody. And when I was a kid, bear in mind, my brother started playing the guitar when he was self-taught when he was, 13. And we started writing songs together. Now, I don't blame my parents for this. I do, actually. I do. I wholly blame them for it. What am I on about? It's completely their fault. If you're listening, Mum and Dad, this is your fault. But I'm like a really positive parent. You get all that stuff in the press about don't praise your kids too much because it'll create entitled children who don't understand that they've got to work for things. Mm-hmm. I think that's bollocks, right? Bollocks. Because my kids are brilliant examples of children who are praised all the time because actually most of the things that they do, including breathing, I find quite incredible just because they're like little ones of me. And I've brought up boys and I think I've done quite a good job, obviously with your help. But my parents, when I was growing up, just didn't seem interested in our music. Now, bear in mind, if my boys had got together, played guitar, one of them had written melodies and songs, put them together and perform them, I'd have been like, even if they'd sounded like drowning cats, I'd have just been so into the fact that they'd tried. Me and my brother would occasionally go downstairs and be like, Mum, Dad, will you just listen to this tune? You're taking a risk when you put yourself out there, right? We would start the tune and my parents would start just talking to each other during the performance, just talking over us. Like, what kind of scenario plays out like that? It's just them playing it. And we never got past it. I always say legends in our living room because of the fact that we've only ever performed for people that we know, because it's too risky. Because our experiences, the nearest and dearest people who loved us and were meant to reinforce our worth, simply found us a bit of annoyance who they just talked over. That's the truth.
I found the first
Thanks,
time,
Mum. Thanks, Dad.
The first time when Ash came round, and I didn't know what to make of it really, because she was, she's coming around and play the guitar and have a sing. And I was thinking, what?
It could be really embarrassing.
Yeah, and I'll tell you what, that first time I heard you open your mouth and sing with Ash on the guitar, it was absolutely mesmerising. You have a voice which is, it's like...
Odd.
No, it's like a cross between like Nora Jones and like it's like a folk singing Nora Jones. You've got this real beautiful tone to your voice, and I wish that we could lay stuff down in the studio so people could hear it. I'm telling you, if you went on the X Factor, they'd snap you up straight away and they'd be like, Emma Kenny of TV.
If I went on the X Factor, I wouldn't get past the initial round to even get to the bit of TV.
Britain's Got Talent, and so you could do like a double act. You could be like that one where a disabled kid was doing
that's never going to happen, ever.
There was one like where there was one in a wheelchair? No, there was or blind or something like that. There was this brother and sister and they sang together, and I think one was, oh no, that's the Peter Kay thing, isn't it?
You're just making stuff up now about, we've had one hand, we've got blindness now. I don't know where we're going with it.
Peter Kay did like a spoof, didn't he?
I know. That was a bit weird.
It was a bit weird. I didn't
Do you
find
know,
it funny,
it was
really.
a bit weird.
Yeah.
It was
because
a
it wasn't interesting
little bit
as well,
humiliating.
which didn't,
Yeah, it was really odd.
Yeah, wasn't a fan of that, but
Although, in saying that, he is an unbelievable comic.
He is.
An unbelievable comic.
Very funny.
We went to see Jim Jeffries not so long ago, didn't we?
Yeah.
We're like massive fans of Jim Jeffries.
I like Jim Jeffries.
He's absolutely awesome, but it's something to take away when you watch somebody that you pretty much have an iconic like for. He's so clever, so quick, so witty, creative, hilarious. But
it was his last show, wasn't it, of his tour?
He got trolled, trounced beyond trounced.
Yeah, he was proper gone.
He couldn't string a sentence together. We actually left early because at that point he was stood on somebody's knees, looking into the audience.
Just having a chat, wasn't he?
Talking crap. Don't get me wrong, it was still funny, but it was a bit embarrassing. Yeah. Do you know what it was as well? And I walked out and I said to you, didn't I? I can't watch people in their pain.
Yeah.
I just can't. And if you're an alcoholic, that was definitely an issue with alcohol, in my opinion.
Yeah, it was.
If you are going to get that trounced during a live performance in front of thousands of people who've paid to come and see you.
I would have waited till the end of the gig, to be fair.
But that's what I'm saying. Yeah. You haven't got control. So for me, being there and watching that, I wasn't finding it funny. Like, I was in pain for him. I wanted to go, Jim, we need to get you some help. Yeah. That was how I felt. And I'm not saying he's an alcoholic, but I know he had alcohol problems. But the fact that he had alcohol problems and then he kind of gave up and became completely without alcohol, and like he was just at the top of his game, and now he's kind of gone back to that. And watching him in that performance, it felt like wow.
It felt like it was because it was his last leg of his tour, his last show. I think he was just...
He let it loose.
He just let it loose. And
it didn't help that the first drink he got off somebody in the audience was a triple Jack Daniels.
You see, that's what changed the vibe, you see.
Yeah.
There was a guy in the audience in the front row, and he took his drink off him,
just downed it, didn't he?
Downed it, and not realising it was a triple JD.
Yeah.
And then he went back and came back again, and then grabbed it again and downed it again.
Yeah.
So in a matter of like 20 minutes, he'd had 2 triple JDs and Cokes. Now, 2 triple JDs and Cokes are not small drinks, It's
no.
Bam, down. And he'd already drank 2 pints of something. So that can sort of really take you over. I mean, he'd had a drink beforehand as well. So for somebody, even like somebody who's accustomed to drinking quite a lot, it were big drinks because they're expensive in there. So there were big drinks. And you could see the vibe change after he drank them.
Yeah, I'm not a big drinker.
No,
I like wine. I like a glass of wine, but I definitely have that ability to go from where Jim was prior to where Jim was after. In moments, and have been known to do that.
It takes me a while to get to that, but once
you are a Trojan. I would be unconscious and having my stomach pumped if I could drink like you. You just can keep going. I know you don't. You're not a drinker now, really, at all. And even then, it was never an issue for you. But me, I am. She has one shot of vodka too much. She won't remember anything.
Yeah.
I have to be. That's why I don't drink when I'm out. I've done it once with you, and we know what happened.
Yeah.
It was not a happy end. It was not a happy. I don't remember it, but apparently for other people, it was not a happy ending, and that's all I need to know about my drinking behaviour. To the point where, when I woke up in the hotel without a hangover, thinking that was a good night, but then don't really remember how I got back here. It turns out I was taken back, escorted, shall we say, by a couple of people, and left in my bed. And I woke up with you, and I said, "Why am I here?" And you went, "Oh, you got a bit wasted." And I went, "Did I embarrass myself?" And you went, No, you didn't." And I went, "Right, don't tell me anything though. Don't want to know anything about it. Anything about it." And then my brother, who was the person who had to escort me back to that particular place, he, piece by piece, unravelled exactly what I'd done and how I'd been, and would not let me escape that. Now, I think if the brain has chosen to black out such memories, it's for good reason. Don't argue with the brain. I mean, ideally, never get in that state. I've been in that state once in my entire life. That is literally the only time I've ever been drunk like that. And I will never be drunk like that again. Not because I had a bad experience, I don't remember it, but because my brother has shown me how I am in those situations. Thanks, Ash. Thanks for that.
I mean, it is, it's what, down in most of the bottle of a Grey Goose.
It was not. It was not most of a bottle of Grey Goose.
I thought you were very loving and you were very nice.
I was very nice. I am a nice drunk most of the time. I'm not a drunk very often, but I'm a nice one most of the time. Very occasionally, I'm nasty, like most people are. But that
just
takes
depends on
bottles of wine and tequila,
which
nobody should do. And it's just a disclaimer here. If you're ever thinking about mixing drinks, I can absolutely quantify that tequila, red wine and white wine are a terrible mix.
Definitely.
That's all my best friend Pam's fault, who's no longer with us. I blame her entirely for that particular situation.
I think she'd take the blame if she was still alive.
She would just laugh at me and say that it was my fault.
Yeah.
Are you joking me? She would not care. Well, I suppose that's the end of yet another Making Sense of It. I don't feel like we've made any sense of anything today.
You know what? This episode 8, has just been a nice
Episode
chat.
8 has been my escape.
Yes.
Today has been a very, very sad day for me. And I miss my best friend. And I used to talk a lot of crap with her. So I thought I'd just do the same with you guys. So you can all be my Pam for the day.
Wonderful.
Join us next time for another brilliant episode of something with Making Sense of It. We don't quite know yet. We might have got a guest. Maybe somebody's stranded somewhere and we can just drag them in from their snow-laden selves and introduce them to our warm and cosy animal-filled kitchen. Who knows? We will be getting some guests. We're getting True Geordie on, who's absolutely adorable.
Absolutely.
He's going to come down and meet us. We've got somebody who's a pro-legalisation of drugs coming soon. But obviously, as the weather's so terrible, we can't promise it's going to be in the next week or so. Take care, be safe, be nice to each other.